Welcome back, Rage Nation. Got myself Pete here.
That's not really exciting.
You got Senior Dixon.
I don't think that's appropriate.
And we got Monsieur Leopard.
Explorers deserved it. No.
Absolutely.
I was disgusted. I cannot believe they've done this.
It's wacky, it's not good, it's just nonsense.
I disagree on that. That's not possible.
We're getting the band back together. We're on a mission. Yeah.
Now we've got a whole new list of things to complain about.
Welcome back, Rage Nation. We are at it again. Got myself Pete here, and we got the ever dapper Doug with us. You're a dapper Doug man.
Hello, everyone. How we all doing tonight?
I told Doug that this is going up on YouTube, and Doug was like, do I have to wear like a tux? I was like, of course. And apparently he literally thought I meant it. So, good job, Doug.
Hey, you know what? Now I can say I am the classiest looking person you've ever had on the show.
And I'm going to scoop this aside because my fellow Bayou will notice that I busted out all the Bayou again. Because, Doug, you are putting on a tournament that I am going to, my friend.
Woo! I'm excited to see you down here. It's going to be awesome. It is the Lone Star Fodown Malifaux GT. It's a bit of a mouthful to say sometimes, but, I've got it, locked
It's only a couple, it's like, what, 2.5, 3 weeks away, maybe?
I guess that would be 3 weekends away. So, 3 weekends from now.
Crazy.
The casino brawl will be going on. Ooh, I should bring the tux for the casino brawl.
To your casino brawl.
Tux for the casino brawl, right?
I'm sorry. Those of you that are listening to the podcast, you're missing out on Doug actually wearing a tux.
Yes.
We'll see how long that lasts.
Well, it is a silly bit, and it is a little bit warm because I am still in Texas. But you know what? I'm committed to this.
Hell with it.
And as far as you can tell, I'm wearing pants, but, I might not.
You don't know.
You do not know if I'm wearing pants or not.
Could be doing a tube, and we never know.
I could totally be Winnie the Poohing it.
Yeah, but the main thing I wanted to get, because people know that if listening to the podcast, we've definitely plugged your tournament. We've had people from your meta plug it. It's been awesome. But you actually released the pool. So what we're going to do is you and I are actually going to sit down. We're going to talk about the pool for the main tournament. We can talk about the other smaller events you have going on because you do have a couple going with it. You did release this packet on TopDougDesign. Is it .com?
It is topdougdesign.com/events.
Yep.
Top Doug Design, that's where I do my 3D designs through. So I sell, 3D printable designs through there. Working on getting print on demand up and running. But as I'm, set up as an LLC through that, it just seemed like kind of the natural way to make sure I set up and doing the proper due diligence as far as getting a major tournament going here. And ideally, year over year, it'll get bigger and bigger and become, a really big event. That's the goal.
Yeah, I think that's a great, and honestly, Texas is a great location. You guys have a lot of airport hubs.
Yep.
Really easy to get down to. I got hooked up with a lot of the stuff, so that's how I decided I was going to come hopefully from Vegas to Houston. So I'm flying into Dallas. I hope that connects. If it does, great. If not, hopefully I make it.
If it doesn't connect, we'll yell at the guys up in Dallas who are driving down and say, hey, go grab him from the airport.
Yeah, go to Vegas. Go pick him up. But we're going to talk about mainly when people are putting on these events because, people are throwing actual in-person events. And even if you're not, even if you're throwing like a Vassal tournament, it's still definitely good to talk with people who are used to putting pools together. Mm-hmm. And Doug, I know you've worked with, the Las Vegas Open. I know you work with your locals to put pools together. So definitely interested to hear not only how you put this packet together, but also what you're generally trying to do when you create a pool of strats and schemes for people. So that's kind of our main goal today. But before we get into that, make sure that you guys are checking us out on YouTube. Like, subscribe. When we get to 1,000, we'll go ahead and give away either a core box of your choice or a title box of your choice. And most of the titles are almost all out. They're almost all out in the wild. We're just waiting on, I think, October and I think they're all out.
That sounds
green.
right. That sounds right. I mean, I'm still waiting on my Cold Snap box to come in because my local shop has ordered that for me. I had to resist the urge of just grabbing one off the shelf at.
Yep, title box, your choice. Pew-pew. I tell you what, and I have Maxine 2 because obviously I had to get Maxine 2 with this box. Still on the sprue. You want to know if somebody randomly wants it? Just hit me up in some kind of social, setting. Media, and I'll give it to you. I'm never going to play Explorers with Maxine, so you can have her if somebody really just wants her. Obviously, Bo's my boy, so he's staying in the bayou.
Oh, God, Bo. I played against him twice during Nova, and God, that guy's annoying.
That's the thing about him. He's just annoying. He locks down strats and schemes. He kind of he's like a mini hodgepodge emissary.
He's a little pain in the ass that if you don't deal with him, he's going to be a thorn in your
problems.
side. You have to deal with him, but dealing with that 2-inch engagement range is that's pain in the ass.
Like why? Like he doesn't even have a fishing pole. Like I know that's supposed to be the attack, but he's just like holding up a map like Lost. So
you just need to put a fishing pole on the base,
I guess.
Or no, he's got one of those. I saw this on late night television one time. That a pocket fishing pole where it extends, the telescoping fishing pole.
Okay.
It totally has that. Obviously.
Okay. Yeah, and then make sure you check us out on. You can see us on Instagram. That's where we post a lot of these pictures of different paint projects that I've been working on. Custom.
Is that your Mecha Meemaw?
That's my Mecha Meemaw until she comes out in October. So.
Shit, you should just keep running that instead of other Mecha Meemaw.
Honestly,
that's
I
amazing.
am. But I need the rock
Calypso.
hopper.
I hate the Calypso.
I know that. I hate Calypso too. I literally just bought Calypso just so I could rip it apart for Maw. As the only reason I did it.
Calypso is evil machine. Evil machine.
Yep. And you can also see those posts on Twitter. I repost a lot of stuff on Twitter as well. And then finally, don't forget to, if you want to support us directly, you can do that at patreon.com/RageQuitWire, where you support us as little as $1, and that allows us to do this video and audio and different things that we put up on YouTube and all the other places. So thanks for our patrons who are awesome. You guys rock. So Doug, real quick, so you released the schedule for the events, and before we get into the strats and schemes for the main tournament and how as a TO you kind of put that together and what you're looking at each round, you want to talk about some of these kind of smaller events, because I don't know if I'm familiar with your lingo here. With it looks like there's a Bonanza Brawl on Friday.
Yep.
And then there's a Henchman Hardcore, which I think most people know, but I'll let you talk about those two events just so you can let people know how they're going to run.
Yeah, so the Bonanza Brawl, that is a fun take. It's a little bit of a different take on the all-out brawl. Other Doug, so there's Doug. I'm Doug Bowman. There's Doug Broman, who's with the Steam-Powered Scoundrels. And yes, people confuse our names constantly. It's
pretty close, Doug. I mean, it makes sense.
Understandably. And the other thing is that my email
address, and you're both pretty vocal in the community.
We're
so
vocal
that
in the
also
community. We're nice guys. We're organizers as opposed to guys who are being the hyper competitive dudes.
But you wear a tux.
I wear a tux to things like this because I'm a classy gentleman.
Classy kind of dude.
And you know what, Doug Broman, if you don't wear a tux, you know what? You're not on my level.
Challenge accepted.
I just threw the gauntlet.
The gauntlet down.
The silken gauntlet. Actually, probably polyester, some shit like that. It was my catering.
I'm impressed you had it because honestly, I have a jacket and a tie. But I don't have tuxedo bits laying around, so that's impressive.
Oh, even this is actually, it's not just a tux, it's a tails coat tux.
Ooh, yes, even fancier.
I worked in catering when I first moved to Chicago back in the day, so
nice.
So that sort of thing. But yeah, so Bonanza Brawl is a take on the Enforcer Brawl, but instead of just hey, we're gonna murder the crap out of each other, there's also these two little loot piles there, which you interact with the loot piles, you get upgrades added onto you there. So There was an old version of this back in 2nd edition where it used the upgrade deck from the campaign. And so they turned it into a version of that with the Enforcer Brawl. Well then, Doug and the other Steam-Powered Scoundrels went and updated this for 3rd edition, have the deck of cards And I ran the first time I ran it at LVO, was a smashing success. And
Nice.
then other Doug and I actually ran it for Weird at Gen Con this year. And people had a blast playing it.
So what's the So, are you just running an enforcer, or do you have a small crew with your enforcer?
So it is one model. Any yeah.
So this is like a this is like a straight
Oh
up
yeah,
brawl.
it's straight up brawl, and the packet's got the full rules in there. So it's any non-master, so you can bring a henchman, but of cost cost 10 or less, and you cannot bring upgrades. Now you're going to be getting upgrades from these loot decks, and they are
Sure.
full of absolute shenanigans. Like you can end up with the Malifaux child with like a Gatling gun. It's
Okay, so these aren't like normal upgrades we have in
No,
currently in the
it's
game. This is like some
ridiculous
straight up just
shenanigans.
nonsense.
And you
That's
can
sweet.
actually get the deck through Drive-Thru RPG, through the Weird shop on Drive-Thru RPG. They loved what Doug had done so much
Nice.
that they went and made it official. And so, yeah, it's a lot of fun. It was really cool to see them Weird showing some love to the work that the community had done. And so you're getting these you get these upgrades from the loot piles. I actually have got little slot machines, because it's actually I have casino terrain, so I put it in the casino.
Oh, nice.
Because it's delightful and amazing.
So could I bring like Macho Roja and like throw casino machines at people like the slots?
You
He
can
is
bring
10.
Mancha Roja. I think. Wait, can he throw any terrain or just destructible? Or
I don't
terrain
know.
rocks?
I just
don't know.
think
That'd be
I just think it
hilarious.
should be just like you can just chuck it.
Just chuck things
Like
around.
some straight up war machine rules where it's like you're just throwing stuff at each other.
You know what? If it's Mancha Roja hucking slot machines around, well, I might allow that.
Maybe we can give him like a gun attack, We could like make a custom stat line for it. He has to be within 2 inches of a slot machine, and he can just chuck it at people.
Well, he does have that ability to smash people with markers or something.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
But yeah, so it's ridiculous shenanigans, and so you'll get obviously points for hurting and killing other people. They're models, not actual people. I do not encourage violence against my players. That is frowned upon.
Fair.
But so you get points for damaging other models. You also get points. You get more points if they are of a cost higher than you.
Ooh.
So if you
That's
go
good
that full
incentive.
10 soul stones, you're a 10 cost model, but now you're kind of a target, and you're never going to get that benefit.
This
for-
almost sounds like some like Hunger Games stuff where people are like rushing to the loot pile and then just beating each other up.
Pretty much. You get some Hunger Games stuff going on there. And then
Nice.
after that, you can run away. You can score off of dropping scheme markers. So yeah, the full rules are in the player packet. It's delightful shenanigans. There's no way to take it horribly seriously,
Yeah.
because it'll throw shenanigans in your face, and it's a good thing to start out on Friday night.
How many people do you have playing on one board?
So generally, I found that keeping it capped at 6 people per
That
table
sounds right.
works out the best. The plan is to do 2 rounds of this, where hey, we take as many. I've got 3 casino tables, and we'll evenly distribute them out there, and then first round play through that. Second round, the top people from that table will play for the title of being the most awesome casino brawler there.
Let's see here. If I was gonna pick an enforcer,
Or enforcer, henchman, or minion.
I
Any
could, but
non-master, yeah.
I do like enforcers though, so I think if I was gonna go with one, just looking at the Bayou nonsense that I have sitting in front of me, dude, I tell you who I would go with. I would go with my boy right here, the old Raphael Lacroix.
Okay.
Dude is a beat stick. He's decently hard to kill, and he can put it out there.
I love to throw the dinosaur into it, because,
That doesn't seem fair.
he's shenanigansy. But I am not going to say what the best model that consistently wins at this is. You can listen to the Steam Powered Scoundrels. They will tell you what it is and what won at Gen Con, but it is in Bayou. And that's as much as I'm going to say with that, because I want people to just play what the
Interesting.
hell they want to, because that's more fun.
Well, I think that's what you do in those types of events. You're like, man, I love this enforcer. Honestly, it's probably between Raphael or Bert Jebsen.
I do
Bert
love
Jebsen is a wet paper towel when it comes to taking damage, but he's fun.
But if you die, you come back. So it's
okay.
yeah. There's no permanent death. So you die,
You get a respawn.
you get a respawn, and you also drop a pile of loot. It's straight up some first-person shooter, shenanigans. You just drop that
That's
pile
awesome.
of loot. Other people go get your loot because, I want
like
that
the,
Gatling gun you were rocking.
It's like the old Diablo 2 game where when you died, you just dropped all your crap, and you had to go find your body again.
Oh my god!
And it's right in the middle of all the monsters.
Because of course it is.
Of course. So yeah, that sounds like a blast. And is the henchman hardcore? Is this like your traditional just henchman hardcore type deal?
Traditional henchman hardcore. Your 30 soul stones, 4 models, no more, no less. Your master counts. You pay for your master. You don't get the effigy for free. You ignore the ability with the effigy, where you get it for free if it's a henchman-led crew. Action leaders have a 2 action limit and smaller hand size. Wedge deployment, plant explosives, vendetta, and assassinate can score plant explosives on the first turn. So it's your standard henchman hardcore, and it's lots of fun. I love henchman hardcore. It is always such a you see just weird combos in it.
And not only that, Doug. Here's the thing, right? So the best part about all this, and I've been to tournaments that we've done similar things where we've done a tournament throughout the day, and then we have kind of like games at the end of it. Some people like open play, other people like this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But the best part about this, and this is if you are, an adult of age, drinking the hell out of, whatever. I mean, do they only serve beer there, or are they just beer?
The beer and wine. They also have some mead as well. So beer, wine, mead. That's what their license is. But yeah, the
how about a good Guinness? Can I get a good Guinness there?
They do not have Guinness. Most of the beers they've got there are they try to stock local Texas beers.
Oh, great!
So
That's
there's
awesome.
a lot of really good beer.
So
in Texas.
I was a little disappointed there. I was like, it's gonna be like a Miller Lite or something.
No. They do have some light beer there as well.
No offense to you people who love your light beers. I am not one of them. I'm a heavy guy.
No, you know what? I like to say. Can I curse on here? I'd like to double check first.
Yeah, I think you can.
Okay, I just want to make sure. I don't know. Yeah, I don't want to get you like explicit content. No more. You're kicked off the platform.
Doug, also, I edit my stuff a lot, so...
Okay, here we go. Well, you know what they say about light beer. It's like sex in a canoe. Fucking close to water.
It's true.
I
can see that.
am enjoying a nice, local Texas beer right there. Yeah.
Yeah, when my 60-year-old mother drinks, Michelob Light or whatever she drinks, I'm just like, oh, good. I'm glad you're drinking water. Keep me hydrated. Gotta hydrate. It's good.
Exactly. That beer was, as my father-in-law says, yeah, Michelob Ultra. It at one point was in the same room as a beer.
Yeah, at one point, before they put them on their own separate paths. So, I was happy, Doug. You got your package sweet, man. You got the for the day 1 and 2, you have it split up. You have the QR codes already on there, so if you had this printed off, you could scan it right into your phone. Prevents you from having to sit there for like 10 minutes, saving them yourself. I like how you got the score sheet set up. Where'd you get that design, or is that something you just kind of created over time?
So the design was originally something that Craig Shipman had made for the U.S. Photo Tour.
Oh, nice.
And and he'd had it with, the strategy
and you stole
games. He put it out. It's like, hey, here, use this. And then Craig got busy with life and everything. And so I went and then I updated it, with each gaining grounds.
Sure.
I've put it out there on the U.S. Photo Tour Facebook page. So it's available there. Where all of these are actually The one in this packet is not editable, but I actually have got it where it's little drop downs for other tournament organizers, so they can just go in there and it's got all of the current Gaining Grounds strats and schemes in there, and it's just click 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 click, and it gets set up there.
Nice.
Now the QR codes, I generate those in the app, then take a screenshot of them and throw them up onto it, but
Yep.
it works out very conveniently.
Yeah. It definitely does. So, looking at this in general, when you kind of create a pool, and we're not getting into these quite yet,
Okay.
but when you're sitting down and you're making a tournament, what are you trying to do with these pools? Are there different things you're trying to do each round, or you're trying to like build up to a certain type of matchup? Like what's your mindset when you're building this stuff?
So I actually take building strategy and scheme pools very seriously. That I don't just go random. These are the 3 pools.
Boop 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 boop.
There's a lot of people, and nothing wrong if you do that. You can do that. You do it how you want. The way I work with it is that there are your small local 3-round tournaments. That means there's going to be 15 schemes across the day. There are 13 schemes in the Gaining Ground, 1 through 13. So every single one of those should come up at least once, and 2 of them should come up twice. So everything needs to come up once, and a scheme should never come up more than twice in a 3-round tournament.
Okay.
5-round tournament, that's 25. So you've got so every single scheme should come up at least twice, except for 1.
I mean, that works, and that really, I think that avoids accidentally creating favoritism for a type of crew.
Well, so I was talking to like Brian and Andre when they were doing the Vassal World Series, and there's like, oh yeah, everyone's complaining that Barkus is horrible and overpowered. I'm like, well, he's strong, but he's not that. I'm like, what are people doing here? It's like oh, and so he showed me the strat and scheme pool, and
you're like, of course.
Well, Assassinate came up far more often than it should have. I don't remember I don't want to quote it wrong and say, oh yeah, it came up 5 times. No, it came up more times than it should have over the number of rounds it should be.
I will say there is some flexibility, and I've done this for local tournaments where I have literally told people, I'm like, I want this to be a bloodbath. Assassinate is in every pool, and if you get it, you get extra raffle tickets. So I actually was trying to incentivize people to go and murder masters, and it created some really fun, experiences in those games where people were really headhunting.
Well,
but you don't,
that's if you're
like
going
saying,
with that plan.
Exactly.
Yeah. And when I am doing it, I try to go with I'm going balanced across the board here.
Especially the bigger the tournament is, I feel like the more balanced you want it to be.
And I mean, what I actually do is, because this is where I sit when I, right here in my office is where I sit when I make it up. I have, a fate deck here where it's still split between the suits. And so
nice.
I will actually, deal out the pools. So, like, if it's a 3-round tournament, I'll deal them out and then pull out 2 from another suit and deal those in. And then take a look at the pools, make sure there's not overlaps. So this is how serious I get about it. I've actually got a spreadsheet where I track.
No, that's great.
This is going deep nerd on this here. Is that I've got a spreadsheet where I track month to month all of the distribution of strategies and schemes for the local Lone Star tournaments.
Yeah, and that's definitely important because, like we were just saying, if you aren't tracking that stuff, it's easy to kind of regurgitate the same pools or fall into a rut. And it really is something where, like, I think Chris and I were going to a tournament about every other month at least. I mean, I know you guys run it about once a month, but we went to these tournaments, and every tournament, round 3 was Symbols of Authority. Every like 4 tournaments in a row, and I know it was probably randomized, but it was just, and it was great for me because I play Zip, so I was like, sweet, this is like taking it home. Yep.
But yeah, so I mean, I get to, when I'm tracking it across month to month, I can then see, okay, so we've had, this one a strategy 3 months in a row. So like I have pulled up here my local tourney thing. We just had a local tourney here in Houston on last weekend. So looking at my sheet here, covert operations have been in the pool 3 months in a row. Means covert operations
that one out.
is not going to be in that. I also do that with I track the deployments. Because now, I'm of the opinion that standard deployment should always be at least one. Because it's standard. Honestly,
it's in the name.
Well, it's in the name, but also it's the most balanced of the deployments.
It's
that Wedge definitely favors a strong alpha strike. So does Flank, because you're pretty damn close together with that.
Yeah.
Corner lets kind of a slow burn crew get up and running. And so, but it also then makes stuff where like, breakthrough on corner deployment is damn near impossible for most crews to score. But the crews who can score it, it's damn near impossible to deny them it.
Yeah, I was going to say corner breakthrough. I'm all about, like I said, I'll run Zip most time when I see something like that, or run Maul because she's also pretty fast. And it's just like, I know that you're coming out of your deployment and nothing's going to be left in that little tiny bubble. So literally I just have to like fly a Skeeter or fly something that way. And if you don't kill it, that's just 2 points easy.
Yep. And so that's damn near impossible to score. But then there's a lot of other crews where they're going to struggle to get that model, not only, all the way to your deployment zone in time to score the first point of it, but then do that and get, 3 more schemes down to score that second point.
Yep.
And so it's the crews that can do it almost uncontested. The crews that can't do it, you're like, well, that's a dead scheme to me.
How do you feel about, and talking about corner, because we're kind of talking about strats and schemes that don't work well with deployment now. I've heard a couple of people, I haven't played corner Carve a Path, but I've heard it can be pretty rough, especially on some boards, because you got to spend so many APs just to get it going.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
I've played into it, and it wasn't awful, but I mean, it ends up being a little bit more low scoring. You're also kind of limited on where you can put the markers, because it's not only 10 inches from the line, but they have to be 10 inches from each other. So it's going to be hard to set your crew up to be able to go and kick both of the path markers right away.
Kick the can.
Yeah, kicking the can. And so it's sort of that. Yeah. Now, if it happens to come up, I'm not going to, say no on that, but it's all right, this might be, like I said before, the crews that can do that can do it very well. The crews that can't are going to struggle with it. And so it's keeping balance from month to month to month.
And looking at as you kind of build up, are you the kind of person who maybe you'll throw a standard deployment in round 1 or 2, and maybe you make a more challenging, pool for round 3? Like, how do you think about that as you go through a tournament? Especially, we're talking about a 2-day tournament, so how do you kind of plan out what you want it to progress as we go through this tournament?
So when it comes to 5-day tournaments, I do like to put standard deployment round 1. Just tends to be what I do. I mean, I could probably go pull up my LVO packets too, and it's probably standard deployment round 1. I like to see round 1, especially in a 5-day tournament, because it's going to be a random mix. You could have the best player in the tournament playing against someone who's played 3 games of Malifaux ever.
Yeah,
you never know, and that's the way it should be. I am of the opinion that people from the same meta who play against each other all the time should not be paired up round 1. That's why. So it's one of the reasons I still have to use. So I use Best Coast pairings to make the matchups round 1, and then I put everything into Longshanks because I like the Longshanks interface. But Best Coast pairings has got the option to say this person's on this club, which then I just put that as this is where they came from, so that you don't drive 17 hours and then play the same guy you play against all the time.
Yeah, I will say that Longshanks does have a feature for that. It depends. Yeah, I was gonna say it depends on whether you and your your buddies have that entered. Like I know I don't want to play. I think you can have up to 3. I forget what it's called. It's like preferred opponent, not preferred opponents, like local opponents or something like that. But anyways, you basically do 3 people, and if they confirm like, yeah, we play all the time, that way in Longshanks, then you can have it where, yeah, I don't want preferred, or common local opponents to play this round. So it is in there, but that's only if people are using it, and a lot of people don't use that because I do feel like more people are using Longshanks, which I'm happy to see because the data is starting to become more consistent on it, which is good to see.
Excuse me, burping there. Two more. Yeah, so I love the interface for Longshanks. But when it comes to the putting something onto players, part of it is the I don't want to put burden on them, but also it's the I more than usually almost every single tournament I am putting someone to the Longshanks for the first time ever.
Yeah.
And they may have been playing locally a whole bunch, but it's their first time they were able to make it out to a tournament.
Yep.
And so that's requiring doing the friends in there is requiring the foresight. The thing is also having their friends say, hey, I don't want to play against this guy or this guy. Well, they might not be from the same meta. They can ultimately potentially game the system. Now,
yeah, I mean, it's only round 1, though.
Only round 1, but I would prefer to just, I like to take that burden on myself to make sure that they don't get paired up. And I've talked this out.
I appreciate that.
I've talked this out with I've chatted with both the guys who do Longshanks. I've chatted with the guys who do Best Coast pairings. And ultimately, neither of them does 100% of what I want them to do from a tournament software. That Best Coast pairings, that first round 1 pairing, because I can put in their, their club name, ends up being, the best way to do it. Because then I say, okay, these guys are from Texas, these guys are from Michigan, these guys are from California, and then they don't play against each other.
Yep. And
because, honest, I've done the whole drive 17 hours to a tournament to be paired off against someone who I play on a regular basis. And it sucks.
Yep, and I know you played some Texas boys when you went to Nova, but
that wasn't
you didn't
round
get them. Yeah, exactly.
And so, I assisted Jeff on doing the setup there because he wasn't as familiar with Longshanks as I was. So I helped him get set up in Longshanks and do the BCP because, you can do those random pairings. And then the thing that Longshanks does that I really enjoy is that it can say, avoid the same table.
Yeah.
If at all possible. Now, it doesn't always work. Eventually, with enough players, you will...
and the cool thing about Longshanks is I think it also flags it. Like, it'll flag it color-based, like, I think it's green, yellow, and red. Yeah. So red's like, hey, both these players have played on this table, or they've already played each other. So it gives you warnings when something's not set up ideally.
Right. And so I like that. I also enjoy that Longshanks is browser-based. The fact that, so Best Coast pairings, it's only app-based. I have to enter that on my phone or on a tablet, but my tablet died, so I'm like, oh, well, I'll just do this on my laptop now. And it's like, I can't do this on my laptop. Well, fuck. I mean, entering,
I always bring a laptop.
Entering, entering 10 people's name for a small local tournament like this.
Yeah.
I mean,
it'll take you double the time.
Exactly. I suppose going.
Yep.
I mean, back in the day, I still had to take a typing course on a typewriter, so I had to, learn how to do that. I know, dating myself there a little bit there.
I had to take a typing class, but it was on an actual computer, Doug. Man, you got some of that old tech.
Either that, or it was just a crappy typing room, I guess. I don't know.
Maybe.
But
financing.
So that is what I like about Longshanks. And I've chatted with the guys from Best Coast Pairings. Now, the guys from Best Coast Pairings come from a 40K background. And super nice guys. I really like them. But when I said, hey, it would be nice if we could avoid pairing people on the same table that they've been on before. I'm like, oh, well, they didn't really see the reason for that. Because
40K terrain's not as big a deal.
They play on set terrain maps, more or less.
Yeah. And
so it doesn't really affect it, whereas opposed to Malifaux, each of our table setups is unique. Now, there's going to be
Definitely.
certain elements that I want on all of the tables, but the tables themselves are unique.
And I'm not gonna say any like tournaments, but and this isn't just Malifaux. I've been to Guild Ball tournaments. I've been to Warhammer tournaments that have done this. There's some TOs where they're like, "Here's your opponent. Go find a table." I'm like, that just opens up so much bias for one player to be like, "Hey, we're playing over here. Oh, look, this just so happens to benefit me. This is great."
And the player that will do, and a lot of times the player who is paired against that person, no one wants to be that guy at the tournament says, "Hey, so you're kind of doing
I would
this
be that
thing."
guy.
Right. But it's a lot of times, most people, especially in the Malifaux community, are super friendly, and they're like, "Hey," they're not going to go and say it. Or I will, as a TO, I will hear about issues after the tournament. It's like,
After the
"Hey,
fact.
so-and-so did this. It wasn't, great." I'm like, no. Tell me at the time. That's the reason that there is a TO there. The TO is the designated asshole.
I've told Ed, I love that, Doug. I'm glad you said that. I tell people all the time as a TO, I'm like, you don't have to argue over it. If you don't agree with something, call me over and I'll be the one that makes the decision whether it's right or wrong, and you can blame me for whatever, but that's on me. And I actually, at one of the tournaments I went to, I told the TO, they were doing like the "hey, go find a table" thing. I was like, wait, no, assign tables, even if it's just like, okay, you two here, you two there. It's like you can't let players choose the table because there will be some a-hole that games the system a little bit. And in Malifaux, like if I see all these buildings, lots of cover and lots of open alleys, I'm like, sweet, I want to play like Ophelia, or I want to play, Perdita, and I'm going to kill whatever comes around that corner.
Yep.
I've seen it. It sucks.
Yeah, and so that's why, you're as a TO, you're the designated asshole. That now, hopefully, you don't have to be an asshole, but you're taking that on to make sure that it's fair play for everyone. And it sucks if a TO doesn't, ends up with favorites. But when I'm TOing something, I make a big point of, removing my bias from it. That I will go and so if there's an issue going on, you want the TO to come over, don't come to the TO and say, "Oh, hey, so what happens with this, this, and this?" It's like, "Hey, call the TO over," because it's easier for me to say, "Okay, so this is the exact situation. This is the ability. This is how it's interacting with this ability." Because I don't have everything memorized. No one. Okay.
Well,
those who do
and
have
there's also
everything memorized,
positional things.
Yep.
Like you might be like, yeah, so you're right, but that aura is cut off because of this piece of terrain, so now it doesn't interact that way.
Right. And that sort of thing. I mean, when it comes to, time calls, there's the things like where, now, for the small local tournaments, I do not post a clock. I'm contemplating posting the clock for the Foe Down. Got to decide whether or not I'm going to float that with my local guys. Because
are you doing... So I saw it's 2.5 hours, which I think is plenty of time to finish a game. I usually run about 2:15 is what I run for my tournaments locally. But are you doing like 15 minutes left, don't start a new turn? Is that what you're doing?
Yep. So for my local tournaments and for generally when I ever do a time call, I call out approximate times until 15 minutes. And so you have about 1 hour remaining. You have about 30 minutes remaining. And, I start the clock sometime after I see that everyone has got to their table. Because I don't want, there to be there's always that one slow guy who's like, "Oh God, I didn't pack up my stuff. Oh God, and I was getting lunch, and so I'm still eating." And so I don't want anyone to be advantaged by, at advantage or disadvantage because their opponent, happened to be slow. Or, they were a little disorganized or they're just frazzled because it's their first tournament. So I do not give exact time calls until 15 minutes, do not start another turn.
Yeah.
And now, this can bite me in the ass, and I have had it bite me in the ass, where someone asked for time, and I told them, there is more than 15 minutes remaining, start that turn if you can. And they asked me at 15 minutes and 15 seconds.
Yeah.
And because now the new turn doesn't start until you discard and draw. So the discarding cards from your hand is what technically starts the new turn, if you look at the start phase. So
Sure.
in second edition, it was when you shuffled. They changed that in third edition.
Okay.
And so it's you start shuffling, that doesn't mean the turn has started yet. Once you have discarded, and so discard the cards, draw your new hand, a new turn has started. So if you have done that, and then I call 15 minutes, you have to play out that turn. And it's
So I could just sit there and shuffle for a while, just be like, don't mind me. Just shuffling the deck well.
And if someone is doing that, you can say, hey, TO, he's slow playing me. And
Now, Doug, how do you deal with that as a TO? Because I've been there before, and I think a lot of people just don't want to be the person that calls it out. But if somebody does either like step aside from the table and just be like, hey, Doug, man, he's slow. Like we're 2 hours into it and we're not even out of 2 yet.
Well, so it comes down to is it intentional slow play or is it slow play through inexperience? Because there's times where, you know what, someone is not intentionally slow playing for advantage.
Sure.
Because they just don't know, they're new. They don't know what's going on. They're like legitimately asking, hey, so what does that do? Hey, so what does that do? Hey, so what does that do?
And no offense to new players, because when you play against a newer player, you have to assume you're probably not getting out of 3.5 turns, probably.
Right.
That's probably max, unless they're just on it. And that's why whenever I play against, well, I do this in general anyways, but when I play against a new player, I try to score my schemes and strat turn 2.
Mm-hmm.
So I get 3 points right away. And that way I know, okay, ideally I want to get at least 6. But, you never know with a new player. But I try to score early to avoid that.
Yep, that is trying to score early, even against an experienced player. Because sometimes you just happen to have a turn where a lot goes down and some crazy chain combo things happen of hey, you got that perfect thing of every single coordinated attack goes off and you're getting all these positive or all these negative. So you're flipping a lot of cards and you're shuffling the deck in the middle and going through it multiple times. There's times where you get a long ass turn because that's the way the things shook out.
Have you seen intentional slow play in Malifaux, Doug? Just curious. I have.
I've never had to explicitly deal with it. Also, because people say, "Hey, I think he slow played me," not "he is slow playing me."
Well, that's the tough thing, right? Because, and as somebody who has been to a lot of tournaments, usually it's not not super obvious, but all of a sudden somebody who's very fluent with their crew, all of a sudden, just start picking up cards, start asking more questions. And if they weren't playing the game that way the entire time, I'm like, and especially if they have a lead, I'm like, all right, and we're getting low on time. I'm like, I know what you're doing. I'm not going to say what you're doing. I'm just going to play faster to try and catch up.
Yeah, well, if that's happening, if you feel so, people don't call me over on it a lot. I, as a TO, get called over after the fact a lot. Yeah. That tends to be when
if
people
you
bring
think
it up.
it's well, see, the thing is, in most cases, I don't have a problem telling the person, and if I think I can overcome it anyways, I'm not going to say anything just because I'm like, I'm going to beat you anyways.
Yeah.
If you're slow playing me and I think I can beat you, but if somebody, especially if it's middle of the game and all of a sudden it's just grinding to a halt, there's been a couple times where I've had to tell first. I think it's important that you communicate with the other player to be like, hey, it's been like 15 minutes and you still haven't activated a model. It's like you've been debating back and forth. It's like, I understand that you're trying, like, this is important, but we got to move it along here.
And they're getting analysis paralysis. Now, like a new player
which is
will
a
legitimately get, analysis paralysis. They just don't know what to do because they don't have all the reps in. But if it's a player who's played a lot, they might get that, oh my gosh, I'm normally not out of the top table, and I'm, playing on the top table here. Oh my God. And they just forget everything.
Yeah.
Honestly, giving them a friendly match, like, hey, dude, your crew. Just go with it. You know what? Don't worry about it. You know it better
and
than
honestly,
you think you do.
I usually tell people when it gets to that situation, if I don't think it's ill-willed, which I don't think I've had anybody doing it ill-willed. I think they've just gone into the tank because they're trying to win.
Yeah.
and that's not ill-willed, slow play. That's like I'm trying to find a way to win slow play, which I've done myself, so I definitely can appreciate it. But I've found the more I play in events, it's better just to make a decision and go with it than to just sit there for 15, 20 minutes. Now, there's times where you might want to spend like 5 minutes thinking about something, but you need to make a decision and go. Otherwise, you're just costing yourself points.
Right. And that's one of the reasons I'm kind of against having clocks visible. Because, hell...
People freak out.
Well, at Nova Open, I didn't notice on like the first day that he actually had the clock up there. But when I saw that, oh wait, he's posted the clock, he's got it projected on the wall. I normally don't worry about the time. It's like I'm just going to play this. I'm going to go do my brew as fast as I can. But then I started looking at the clock, and we're not. And then you get that mindset of we're at 30 minutes right now. We're at this point in this turn. That's the point where you start doing the mental math of are we going to get to another turn, or do I need to, be ready to score the end game parts on this here? Yeah. And I felt bad looking at it. It's like, I look at it and go, oh, no. I'm like, don't look at the clock. It's like, but it's there, and it's information.
It's all I can think about now.
It's open information, and strategically, I should be looking at it to gauge what I'm going to score, and so that's why I don't like to post it.
Did you play War Machine or Guild Ball at all, Doug?
I never played War Machine. The local area here kind of had a bad rep with it. That there was the people who played it here kind of had a rep of being a bunch of dickbags.
I mean, I think War Machine kind of I think it draws that kind of person who likes the combo setup kill type thing. But I never played it, but I played Guild Ball friendly. I never got into it enough to actually be. So I think people that have played either of those games, because both those games are very dependent on clock, like literally a chess clock where you're slapping it back and forth. And the first time that you do that in a tournament, it's super overwhelming because you're freaking out because one, War Machine has a death clock. Like if you run out of time, you lose. Right. And Guild Ball had that for a while, but then they switched to. Okay, if you get to 0, you give up, each activation, you give up a VP. So it is super intense. So even though we're not doing that, just seeing a clock, I can see freaking some people out.
Well, and so every few months, the idea of chess clocks in Malifaux comes up. And the issue is, though, that you're making decisions on your opponent's turn. So whose time is it on? When it's decided to cheat fate or not? And then it's like, okay, it's like you'll
there's auras and you're asking questions. Yeah, it's definitely tough in those situations.
And so you make compared to any other game I've played, you make far more decisions on your opponent's turn in Malifaux than any other game I've played, because how I react during your turn affects both of us there, and it will change the outcome of the game. It's like, do I cheat this or not? Or, oh, hey, I cheat this, but I'm getting this extra trigger off here, and so now I get to go and do some extra stuff here. Or but then I get to scamper, and so there's all the things that happen on your opponent's turn.
Yeah, and what I want to do, Doug, is I do want to go through each round, and what I'm going to do is I'll read the pool, and then I'll give you kind of my initial, just like as a player, what I see popping out at me, and then you can tell me kind of what your intentions were and how you envision this maybe playing out for certain players.
Yeah. So, and when it comes to making the pools, I'd mentioned like, I got my spreadsheet there, and I'll deal the things out. I'll take a look at them, kind of set them up, and go, oh, well, hey, this one's got, as we said before, corner breakthrough. Well, we haven't had that in a while, so okay, maybe I'll do that. Or is he, well, you know what? It's not, I'm going to shuffle that breakthrough to somewhere else. Or I'll look at the pool and go, okay, this is a really killy strategy. And then I've got, all of the killy schemes in this strategy. So this suddenly is the nothing but kill game. But also because I'm doing the spreading out the numbers of what each, making sure that the schemes are all evenly represented. So if overly killy is overly represented in one round, so then you're suddenly going to have rounds that are overly schemy schemes.
Yep.
And so making sure that it's, balancing the strategy with what's in the pool is important. And then I also want you to be able to have difficult decisions to make. And because you know what? Sometimes is assassinates in the pool, but this is a thing that is really good for an easy to kill master. Or, well, this is, assassinates in the pool and it's a killy scheme. Okay, there's that. Or, hey, I'm going to, you've got, leave your mark and spread them out. Well, that you can head fake, leave your mark when you're going for spread them out.
Yeah.
And so
and those are really creative and interesting when you see them. And it allows you as a player to get really creative. There was a game I played where I took bait and switch, but there was leave your mark. So what I did is I had a hunter that I ran to the middle of the board and I dropped a scheme to fake out leave your mark. So the person I played against brought their master in to engage the hunter and drop a scheme. And then I revealed leave your mark and they were like, oh.
Yeah, the bait and switch, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
It might. Sorry.
Yeah,
actually, no. It's catch and release.
Oh,
catch and release.
There we go.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
So, because it was a minion, had a master, and engaged, and I was like, sweet, boom, and got the point for it. And then I had to get creative to try and get it out of there and not die, and that didn't happen. But, you can't win them all.
Exactly. And it's the making the tough decisions, giving people the opportunity to play the mental game of it there.
Yep.
I'm showing this scheme right here, but it hasn't, I haven't scored it yet.
Sure.
So, oh, no, you denied me this scheme that I didn't actually take.
Yeah, and back when we had outflank, some people would send a random model over there to try and make people think you had outflank, so they'd rush over to try and stop it.
Yep.
I never got fooled by that, but I could see some people doing that. But in round one, so we have standard deployment, which you said you like doing in round one.
Yep.
And it's covert ops. So covert ops is the one where you have to secretly choose 3 models, and then basically you can unload your token onto one of the objectives, strategies. And you have assassinate, leave your mark, spread them out, load them up, and in your face. So this one's kind of interesting because you can definitely go killy in this one.
Yep.
So you could be somebody who brings like a really strong crew, kind of squats in the middle of the board. You're going to kill stuff with assassinate. You're going to maybe do public demonstration. Is that one of them? No, in your face.
In your face.
In your face. So I could see somebody definitely leaning into that, especially some of your more aggro players. To me, though, I definitely see an option for like you were saying, leave your mark and spread them out and load them up.
Yep.
So if you're a scheme-heavy crew, you could actually spread out pretty good. Maybe try to outflank your opponent, start getting your spread them out set up. Maybe also do load them up, so as your opponent tries to chase you down, you can remove it up. Remove schemes for that. So I can see, and that makes this interesting to me because you can play it one of 2 ways, I think.
Yeah. So I like it, like I said there. You've got, this is a good scheme pool to kind of be doing the head fakes on these. Like, oh man, which one do I have? There's a couple ones here where I'm dropping scheme markers, or hey, maybe I'm trying to put out those pit trap markers, or killing you all and getting your corpses over there. And so a lot of those, I like that this has got the ways you can do the head fakes there, but also because there's a lot of scheming interactions there. So leave your mark, spread them out. The covert operations, you just have to be near the pillar. You don't have to interact with it. And so if there's a lot of interacts going on with the strategy, it's really hard then to also do the interacts to drop your scheme markers.
Yeah.
And so that it kind of balances it out nicely, I think.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I think flexible crews that can do both drop schemes and do some fighting would do really well in this pool.
I mean, and you could go like hard aggro on it there with a kind of an alpha strike crew, because assassinate in your face is in there. So if you're going, balls to the wall and just go, yeah, stab all the things. But one of the also, if you're going super alpha strike, that does often leave your own master kind of hanging in the lurch, vulnerable to assassinate sometimes.
And in your face, don't you have to be, is it, 8 soul stones or more?
8 soul stones or more within, 3 inches of either leader.
Yep. So that one, you could even scheme a little bit against it, because if your master is the only thing that's more than 8 points, which I don't think you would do because that's a very squishy list, but you could try to do it if you wanted to avoid that point or something.
Well, so the Titania 2 crew that I bring most of the time, the only model other than my master in it that is more than 8 soul stones is usually either the emissary or the Rex.
I think that people need to remember when it comes to schemes like that too, is that upgrades don't count for schemes as far as points go. So it's not like, oh, this is a 6 stone minion and an upgrade, now they're an 8 stone for the scheme. It's like, no, they're still 6 when you consider the scheme there.
Well, if you take a look at this, so covert operations, you've got lots of, you'd say take a fairly minion heavy crew where you got, 7 cost minions and less, and a lot of them. Well, you've suddenly got a lot of options to go run around, do spread them out, go do leave your mark. Make sure you got then people who are going and camping on those markers, and you're denying them the ability to get in your face. Now, having nothing over 8 soul stones other than your master is going to be, kind of hamstringing yourself. But if you only have, say, the one model that it will qualify for in your face, you're going to have to be able to, protect that and defend that model. And it kind of allows you to say, oh, they're going hard into this model. They've got, they've got in your face. And so either get your leader away from that model or keep their leader away from that model.
And I like, and covert ops I like because just like we're talking about with head fakes here, Doug, I like covert ops because you can actually head fake the strat. You can be like, which 3 did I pick, for this turn? And I did want to show you, I think this is, I'm going to forget their names. I'll put it in a little picture next to this. But I got these tokens from somebody in the UK that makes different tokens for Malifaux and other games. And they actually have a little ledger that they made for this covert ops.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
What you do is it's magnetized. So each turn you write secretly your 3 models, and then you can cover it up. And then when you reveal it,
and here I was like a peasant,
writing it on paper.
Just writing on, like literally, this is the pad of paper I was using last night.
Nope, magnetized. Writing it like a champ.
Oh, and yeah,
so this is really cool.
The funny thing is, like, I'm looking at this, go, oh yeah, no, that turn, all 3 of these guys were able to score that. It ended up being, I was trying out. I finally got Lucius 2 kind of chugging away for me and did a nice little ping pong game of murder, and it was surprising to both him and me. So
yeah, so I think that's a good one to kind of start off day one. Gives you a little bit of everything, lets you play pretty much. I mean, I'd say that probably opens up to, you could probably play 80% of the crews into that pool and find some way to win it. There's not a lot of crews that wouldn't be able to find something in that pool.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I aim for round 1, is that it's something where any crew that you bring into it, it'll, allow you to play what you want to play, and, sort out the top players are going to do very well in that. Your lower players they're not going to struggle with the pool, but it will, it'll start to filter the players to where they're going to be in the standings.
For sure. So I like that, but round 2, I mean, this one's interesting. It's corner, but it's cursed objects.
Yep.
And you have Vendetta, Sabotage, Hidden Martyrs, Public Demonstration, and then Set the Trap. Oh, man, I'm looking. So you need something that is fast and hits hard.
Yep.
I mean, to me, this almost looks like a Marcus pool. If I'm looking at this in Bayou, I think I have to play something like. You could drop something like Brewmaster. You could drop something probably like Ulix is pretty fast, but his models are also squishy. So this one's interesting because you need speed, but you want some durable models.
Yeah.
There are some schemes that you could maybe do some hit and run tactics, like kill the model, but also you're scheming a little bit with like sabotage. That kind of sticks out to me if I'm picking a fast crew, because I can go kill something and then also run a scheme runner up the side to maybe do sabotage. Zip with first mate actually sounds pretty good with this one.
Yeah, that sounds nice.
Hidden Martyrs is always good with cursed objects because you're having your opponent second guess.
And I was gonna say that I also like to put Hidden Martyrs into a killy pool, because it's sort of
like, are you sure you want to kill that?
Is this the model I want to kill? It's like, oh, you take a look at their what's in their crew and go, all right, so these are the ones that are eligible for it.
What? Why is this piglet running in my face?
Kill me! Kill me! I'm delicious!
He's like, hey, you like bacon? The only thing that would make that better is if I could Hidden Martyrs a piglet and then have it die to drop the Leave Your Mark scheme.
Oh. That would be evil and delightful. But that's the kind of thing I like.
That would be a sick reveal. I would love that.
Although one of my favorite things to get is when... and this happened during the Nova Invitational, when both players select the same models for Vendetta.
Oh.
Where,
and they just go at each other.
This is this one has Vendetta on that model, and that model has Vendetta on this model.
They're just like, come at me, bro.
Especially it's like, all right, it happened to me against Trisha during the Invitational. And I almost killed the Vendetta model turn 1 accidentally.
Yeah.
Well, because it came at the Autumn Knight, and the Autumn Knight parried really well.
Did Autumn Knight things.
Autumn Knight in Titania 2 things, and left it at 1 wound, and it hadn't activated yet.
Oh dear.
So it's like, well, shit. I mean, yeah, I could charge through it and just kill it off and whatever. But
I do have a question for you though.
Yeah.
So, public demonstration, what do you think about that scheme?
I have never chosen it. It is
I
difficult
also,
to build a crew around.
That's a dead scheme to me. This might as well
Same.
just be 4 schemes. But I like that you still put it in there, because there are some type of minded person who probably does like that because they can calculate it out, right?
Right.
But that's not me.
So, at Novo, there was one round where, public demonstration was in it, and I hadn't even noticed that my crew, I did not have any way I could possibly choose that, and neither could my opponent. We were both playing with 4 schemes. He pointed, like, yeah, so looks like you're not going to be able to choose public demonstration, and neither will I. I'm like, oh yeah, guess neither of us can. Okay.
And Doug, that's kind of because in a lot of these pools, not yours specifically, but I feel like people are bringing models that can hang around a little bit. And a lot of times those tend to be a little more expensive. So to me, the way this GG is playing out, it's tough to do public demonstration because you want tough models and they're usually more expensive.
That's what I found as well. Anytime I've had a crew that it could score, where I could legally take public demonstration with them, it just seemed like, well, they're not all going to be able to, it's not going to survive long enough to get that demonstration off, and those same even if it was the exact same crew, they're going to be able to score other schemes better, I feel like, a lot of the times.
Yeah, so that one's going to be interesting. I'd love for people to comment or share if they've used that to some effect. The crews that I play, I have not seen it yet. The only one that I think I might be able to pull it off with is Mawtucket. Mawtucket has some really disgusting minions, so that might be the only crew that I see me pulling that off with.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to have at least 3 models with cost 7 or less, cost of 18 or less. So basically, at most, it's 3 models, 3 6-cost minions.
You know, that just makes me want to be like, I'm just going to bring these crazy test subjects and we're just going to go ahead and go to Pound Town.
Yeah, buddy.
Quick question, which one's your favorite test subject?
I mean, I do enjoy Kung Fu Alligator.
Boom. That's the best one.
So there's what? There's Kung Fu Alligator. There is
The
Brass
orangutan.
Knuckles Orangutan. What's the third one?
You don't remember?
I don't remember.
How about the chicken with the helmet?
See, that one's not as good. Brass
It's
Knuckles
not.
Orangutan and Kung
This
Fu
one never
Alligator.
sees the table. This one never sees the table unless I bring all three for some reason.
When it comes to most minions where you're going to be able to have 3 on the table, it's rare that I ever run 3 of anything. And
12 soul stones for 3 test subjects isn't terrible, though.
yeah, no, that's for that totally works. But I mean, it's very rare that I bring.
That's what I'm saying.
all
She's
3
the only
of
one
them.
I think that might work.
I can see
because
that
for,
working. I can see that
For
working
4
really well.
stones, they're kind of ridiculously hard to kill.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, it's I always have that one of the 3 minions who just lives in the bag, or you know what, I just never pay. The Autumn Knights are phenomenal, but I'm never gonna bring all 3 of them. It's
So,
a lot.
Doug,
So one's unpainted.
as a Titania player, how are you finding Set the Trap? How are you finding that one?
So I take it a lot, and then I fail to score it.
Oh, yeah?
Part of it is that you have to have the at least one of those scheme markers down out there, because it's very rare that you're going to be able to get 3 models from one
With
marker,
one scheme.
with one scheme marker.
Yeah.
And so either you have to have it set up on an earlier turn, because the Behold Her Glory, that's like, yes, you get to put that scheme marker damn near anywhere you want it to be, but you need to do that where to score that scheme, you need to be doing that when you know mostly where those models are going to end up.
I tell you what, playing Dead Man Walking, that scheme's money.
Oh yes.
Oh, yes. Or I was playing Lootmonger, that's money.
I haven't seen that one
like
on the
that-
table yet, so.
So Lootmonger, I'm still playing with it and I like it. It's just Somer's in a bad spot. Let's just say that. But
Yeah.
I think it's his keyword. I think he's actually fine. I think a lot of his keyword is, because he was such a powerful summoner that you don't hire those models, but now you don't really summon that well and you don't want to hire them. So, but anyways,
You don't want to bring Summoner's Say into Cursed Object, because your opponent then
Yes,
gets to
that too.
choose. Do you put it's the opponent's choice whether or not you put a curse token on them,
you put a curse on them.
and so you summon
Yep.
them. They can't take the interact action that turn, but you can straight up murder that model, and it will count for cursed objects that turn. So.
So it is kind of one of those things where I think summoners in general are in a pretty rough spot with GG3, but we'll see. Some people might do some creative things with them.
I've done
But,
some nice things with cursed objects with the Dreamer, because because his models bury, you leave them buried until the turn that they you don't unbury them. So they put the cursed object on
The
them.
turn they can
You
get
don't-
rid of
you
it.
don't unbury them that turn, and then when they unbury, they immediately go, "Oh, sweet, I unburied in base contact with you." Curse immediately on.
Yeah, that's a good point, because then you're not only summoning the model, but now if there's a model that somehow got rid of theirs, or just some kind of situation like that, you can be like, cool, I'm going to drop in, chuck that on you, and start beating you up.
Right. And so Dreamer's in a good spot for that one, but other summoners where their models start out in play is not.
Yeah.
No, Terra, hers are buried when she summons too, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so she could
So
get
she's
away with
decent
that too.
And so it's you choose not to unbury them until they're able to go, hey, here's the curse back.
Yep, and then to finish out day 1, for round 3, you got Wedge with Guard the Stash.
Yep.
You have Breakthrough, Leave Your Mark, Catch and Release, Spread Them Out, and Public Demonstration. So this one's kind of interesting because it's wedged, so you're going to be kind of staring each other in the face. But you look at the schemes, they're really like, hey, go do your thing.
Right.
So you want to hold an area, but you're also putting schemes out. So for me, this one screams Brewmaster 2 because you're controlling the areas. You have 12 cups of coffee to get rid of random scheme markers. I'm like, anything that has mass, get rid of schemes. Or Nelly. Nelly would be a nightmare, I think, in this one. This one will be interesting because it's the last round of day one. And you might go against an opponent who just, you know what, you might not even do any damage to your opponent. You might just put distracted out. You might just push them around, fighting in the scrum to control the area, dropping schemes. This one's actually, I think, for day one, this one's actually the most interesting to me because you can play this in a couple different ways. But I think the people that can move stuff, guild probably be pretty good because you can get the upgrade to not be moved. Yep. You have laugh off, is always good. This one's going to be interesting. This pool is going to have a lot going on there.
I kind of why I wanted it to, end day one with this one there is that when I made all the pools, I, made them, but didn't say this one is round one, this one is round two. I'm like, I have these 5 pools. I was like, oh, you know what? This one is a nice one to start out with. This one is a nice one to, kind of end the day with because it's tough decisions. Because you look at this, there are some tough decisions to be made here.
Yeah.
That you
because it's like, which scheme are you going to take? Because you have 1, 2, 3, and so I mean, there's so many options for schemes. I mean, you really have to try and be smart with denying because your opponent could be doing any of those. And then also a random catch and release there, so then you got to watch out for late turn minions trying to hunt down your stuff.
Yep. And, like, if you, honestly, this is going to be one of those ones where, because, I mean, you're starting at wedge, you're, practically staring them straight in the face, that it's going to be very easy to get to your opponent's board half, which, guard the stash, you're going for the ones in the middle, and you're going for the ones on the other side of the table. Honestly, it's going to be like, all right, hey, I can't reach my own guy. You're going to be both playing on the opposite side of the board from where you're actually set up at, and that kind of tickles me a little bit.
Yeah, this might be an interesting one also, now that I'm thinking about it. I've been playing a lot of the Dread Pirate Zip.
Okay.
And this one actually might be pretty interesting for him as well because there's a lot of dropping schemes. There's a lot of putting distracted out. Full speed ahead's real good. You can fly over stuff to try and get to those areas. There's a couple masters that would be good options here.
So I do need to say one non sequitur with Dread Pirate Zip that is very disappointing. He has no action that says I'll most likely kill you in the morning. And quite frankly, that's a mistake.
You're offended.
You know what? It was like, ooh, the Dread Pirate Zip, sweet. But no, I'll most likely kill you in the morning. I mean, come on.
All right,
man.
Wesley, I'll most likely kill you in the morning.
Exactly. That would be glorious. I would love that. And sadly, it was not. But you know what?
They do a good job of hitting the pop culture references. They just missed it a little bit.
They missed that, missed opportunity. Maybe they didn't want to be too on the nose with that. But let's be honest. When it comes to Gremlins, you have to go on the nose because none of them have noses.
I had to, I was looking at a lot of options for Houston. I was thinking running 10 Thunders. I was thinking about going back to Outcasts. But all of a sudden, I pulled out my Ulix 2 model.
Okay.
And I was like, I need to paint you, and you need to see some table time.
That is a sexy model. I mean, obviously I have it because, Titania 2. And when it comes to the splitting up the dual master boxes, I'm like, no, I want all of the models in the box because, even if I don't play that crew, I don't play that crew yet. And you know what?
Nice.
Even if I am never going to play that crew, I love cool models to paint. I just love painting cool models. And that is a cool ass model.
Most of the Malifaux Burns models are just freaking sweet, man. I mean, they just got a lot of flavor to them, a lot of character for sure. Yeah, so day 3 is going to be kind of, people are going to be worn down a little bit. This is the 3 round day.
Yep.
That day for people who don't go to bigger events tends to wear on you a little bit.
Yep.
And then you have to come back the next day and play 2 more.
Yes. Now, and we are doing the Henchman Hardcore in that evening, and I kind of floated this around. I'd originally planned on doing it on Friday, but there were a few people who were like, "Hey, I'm not getting into town until late," so I'm like, you know what? Bonanza Brawl, start things off light and silly, and talking to the guys at Nova, because we did the we did back-to-back 2-day 5-round tournaments, and so the Henchman Hardcore was on basically after we finished our 8th round of Malifaux in 3 days. Because, 3-day, 2-day, 3-day. And then most of us ended up playing the Henchman Hardcore and really had a blast. And so
Nice.
I floated it with the guys like, hey, would doing the Henchman Hardcore that evening be, good times? Because, and like, yeah, you know what? It lets more people participate.
Well,
And
yeah,
it's
and
fun.
I think I'll see how I'm feeling. I haven't done a Henchman Hardcore before, so I'm tempted to. I'm gonna need some drinks in me at that point, though.
Conveniently, the Tabletop Tavern has beverages to help you out.
I'm gonna need them. I'm gonna be like, all right, let's get some food. Let's go ahead and get some beers and let's do this thing.
Hey, and you know what? You're always allowed to buy your TO beers during the day. I'm not going to say it gets you more favorable rulings.
That's the best thing. Buy your opponent a beer
buy
too.
your
That's
opponent a
great
beer.
thing.
Buy your TO a beer. Buy the room around. Hell yeah.
That's the best thing about having beer available is if you get smashed or if not by beer. I mean, if you get like beaten up in the tournament game, or if you beat your opponent real bad, I always be like, oh, I know what, that was a rough game for you. Let's go get a beer.
Yep. It's like, you know what? It's like,
or I've also done it with Doug where it's like, you want to know what? We're on turn 3. Let's go get a beer real quick. Let's just go get one and let's figure out how we end this thing.
Yep. And that is always acceptable. And I'm so excited that they've got, the tavern open. Because the store had been open for a little while before they got
do they have enough beer for this? Because I know I'm going to be drinking.
Because
I'm going to be drinking.
When I've seen it, because they've got it on tap, they also have it in bottles and cans. So they've got a wide selection. I think they've got 3 or 4 tap handles. I think it's 4.
I want them to be ready. South Carolina, that's the way we do it at these events.
I will tell them, be ready with beer.
And we tip our bartenders.
Oh good, yes. Most of my local guys so far have been very good about making sure they take care of the people at the tavern. So tip your servers.
So getting into, and how are you as a TO on a 2-day tournament, Doug? Do you like showing pairings the day before? So like after round 3, do you do pairings and then do you share those with people?
No.
Or do you just keep it random so they don't even know? Because I don't like it when people have the whole night to theorycraft.
So ultimately the standings is public information.
So you can guess.
Yeah, well, so I mean, because it's in Longshanks, you can look at it and go, okay, so I'm in, I'm in second place. I'm probably going to be playing against the person who's in first place because I haven't played against them. That's how it shakes out, and you can figure out how so long as you actually look at it, you can figure out exactly what the pairings should be. But people drop. Now, I encourage people to stick it out. I'm doing the what they do at Nova Open. They do the Medical Automaton Awards, where it's if you're in some of the bottom tables there, if you stick it out to the for all 5 rounds, you get there's another special award there for whoever finishes the highest. So started in the bottom, finished the highest Medical Automaton. That's actually what I got at Nova in the open there, because I was in the bottom 10, and then ended up finishing in 14th. So
nice.
Yeah. So firmly in the middle from being at the bottom. You know what? That makes me happy.
I also like that, Doug, because so I'm not saying like I don't like it because I think people can game it. As a player, I don't like it because I tend to switch what I plan on bringing 10 times throughout the night.
Right.
And then I usually make the wrong decision, and then I F up my, round 4 game on Sunday.
Yep. And so, I mean...
That's usually me. Round 4 is the worst round for me in a 2-day tournament.
Well, because you're waking up, it's oh man, I had too much to drink last night, I'm in an unfamiliar place, and oh right, we got to play some more games today. Shit, what time does this start at? Oh god, all right, I got to go,
I think round 4 is the toughest
fast.
round.
Yes. Yeah. And so I like to encourage people to stick it out, even if it's like, oh, I didn't win anything. It's like, no, stick it out, that's good.
Yeah, I mean, I always make the goal of trying to finish in the top half because honestly, that's where I think I should, generally I should finish unless things just go way the hell off the rails. And so I usually expect to do that. I mean, if I finish in the top and if I am in, competition to win, great. That's not ever going to make or break a tournament for me though.
Right.
So I think just making the expectation of, you want to know what, I want to finish here. And I'm going to stick it out no matter what, just because you want experience. Like, even if you're on the bottom of the rankings of that tournament going into day 2, it's playing round 4 and 5 are the most valuable rounds of the tournament because those are the rounds where you're most likely to play against people that are your similar skill level. Because as the tournament starts to ebb and flow, you start to get closer and closer to people at your skill level. That's why in the later rounds, you see the top players are playing each other and the bottom players are kind of playing each other because it starts filtering out. So I would encourage newer players that are like, oh, I got my ass kicked. It's like, well, go to round 4 and 5 because those will be your best games.
That's what I
Fun
always tell my new players.
Competitive.
I always think that, honestly, after round 1 starts the filter, after round 2, it really is filtered out for the most part. Round 4 is going to be that's going to be probably
those are the best rounds.
Honestly, at Nova Open, round 4 those were my favorite games in both of those 2 days.
So I will preface, because I said round 4 is the round I do the worst in, and usually it's because I am towards the top quarter of tables.
Right.
And round 4, I usually make my worst decision. And it's because it's the first day of the second, maybe I didn't sleep good, maybe I didn't drink water, maybe I had too many beers, maybe I made too many random decisions in my head. But those games are the best because I'm playing against people of my skill level.
The tavern does also have coffee to help you out.
No, man, just do another beer.
Fair enough.
That's how you get the hair off the beast,
there
man.
There you go. Coffee or beer. Whichever one you're feeling, man.
How about some Irish coffee?
Ooh, that sounds good.
That does. So going into round 4, though, you're started off with flank. So I think this is the first time we're seeing flank in this tournament. Yep. It is. And so it's carve a path, which I like that. Vendetta, sabotage, hidden martyrs, catch and release, and in your face. I tell you what, this one, me as a player, being the first one on day 2, I could see myself going more aggressive with this one, putting some cheap models maybe to go ahead and push the rock, and then bringing some beat sticks and going for like Vendetta or in your face.
Yep.
But once again, you have to be careful because freaking Hidden Martyrs is there again, Doug. You're a monster.
Well, Hidden Martyrs is going to be in it at least 2 times.
And there it is.
Yeah, the only one. So every single scheme except for one is played twice, and the one that is only played once, I jotted this down. I think it was that's not the one. It was Secret Meetup, and that was just random. Honestly, I love Secret Meetup.
I love it, dude. I don't care. Is that round 5? Yes. I don't care what happens in round 5. I'm taking Maris, and she's going to kidnap somebody and kiss him behind the barn.
Well, I love like how you jot it down in there. Because I'm like, when I it's like, all right, so it's going to be Groot.
Put a little heart next to your note.
Groot and Groot and the lawyer in the forest. Like that's how I jot it down. Because that, you know what, it works.
I'm gonna put that in my little ledger. I'm gonna put Maris in the forest with an executioner. I don't know.
There you go. Yeah. And because that's a fun one. I that's a fun scheme. It just ended up being the way it shook out.
Yep.
I really do enjoy that one. That it's a it's almost an if it's in there, I've got a walled guy, so I'm gonna be taking. Yeah, if you're playing against me, one of my walled guys is gonna try to kidnap you and throw you somewhere because they've got that
round 4
3-inch huck.
Yeah, round 4, Doug. Like, what were you thinking going into this one? Being like, okay, it's gonna be the first round of the second day. Like, what were you kind of going for here?
So I didn't want it to be over the top, stabby, aggressive. I didn't want it to be, cursed objects straight out of the gates.
Yeah.
Now, cursed objects is round 5, but I didn't want it to be something that we had just played. I didn't want it to be something that was too much to wake up to. But, hey, Carve the Path had to be in there somewhere. Seems to be either people love Carve the Path or they hate Carve the Path.
I love Carve. Carve is my favorite strat, just because I love the idea. I just I get like a little minion and just push the cart, and then he runs up to it and he pushes the cart again.
Yep.
And then you go kill each other, and it's fun. I
and
like
then
it.
Maybe you're shoving the other cart back. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And in flank, that carving, those path markers, those are going to end up nearby each other. It's you're getting a lot of player interaction on that one there.
It's kind of like you just see the two carts that all of a sudden they just kind of pass each other, and it's funny because in those instances, you and the other player have to make a decision. You have to be like, okay, are we just going to stare at each other and both score, or are we going to stop and punch each other? That's a decision you have to make.
Yep.
It's a business decision.
And most of the times when I've played it, the carved markers end up near the center line, and we're just punching the crap out of each other. And then someone finally goes down. It's like, okay, I'm just gonna I'm gonna kick yours the other way and keep going with mine. Or maybe I'm not even gonna kick yours the other way. I'm just gonna keep going with mine.
Yeah, and I also crews that can put stuff to get in the way. So if you have like ice pillars or if you have pianos, you can really start making it a little difficult for people to move things around.
But you can't, because remember, the carve markers remove those markers.
Yeah, but I was talking more for preventing the models from walking up to the carve path marker.
Yeah, so you got to, put those in between the model and the carve marker. Well, the other thing you can do with that, and so I ended up doing this at Nova. God, I'm just like, Nova! I did all these things. Well, because this is...
I'm so cool. I went to Nova.
Well, that was 14 rounds of Malifaux in 4 days. And honestly, that's the most competitive Malifaux I've gotten in years, because I'm the guy who runs things. I don't get to compete in things all day.
Good for you. Good for you.
Yeah, someone has to do it. But yeah,
good to get out there and play.
But doing the Carve the Path, you can also, hey, let's say you're a marker heavy crew, so like Titania. I played Titania 2 into Carve the Path.
Did somebody get all your markers?
Well, here's the thing: is like, so I was playing against Longton, so the guy who won the Invitational.
Okay.
I'm playing into first round of the Open. I'm playing into him with Carve the Path. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm taking Titania 2 in this. And the look is like, but why'd you do that? Because, I'm just going to be removing your marker. And this, I'm like, no. I got a plan. And so he got that he was really, really confused by that there. There's this look of confusion on his face. Well, a lot of times,
bewilderment.
I was putting my markers where, okay, he wanted, what? He wants to remove those markers.
Ooh.
Well, I'm putting them
point.
where, okay, to remove them, he's kicking his thing towards me. So
that's a good point.
So it sets me up to kick it back. Or, all right, he's putting it where, well, I at least know where it's going to be.
Put it on his half of the board.
And he's like, well, his guy's going to come over here to get that. Well, at least I know where he's going to be aiming for, and then I can set myself up to go after him there. Now, he still won that game. He was playing Damien 2, and, it was, painful. But, I only lost at 6-4. Again, me being, I'm, middle of the pack most of the time. And going up against the guy who won the entire thing, only losing 6-4
Feel pretty good.
feels pretty good. And with that, hey, those markers, the way to deal with Damien is like, oh yeah, kidnap Loheath. And so throw Loheath into an underbrush marker and then have a walled geist there to then, throw him another.
Nick's not on here for me to make fun of him, but I played against him the other day and he was doing Yoko and I played Maw 2. And I took Bill and I power dunked him into a pit trap.
Oof.
And I just kept picking him up and dunking him into the pit trap. And he tried to run away with his little, like, you're coming with me trigger. But then I dropped in the Soulstone Miner, and then I dropped him down the hole again and threw him back into the pit trap. So Bill's just flying all over the place.
And doing that sort of thing is, a good way to deal with
It was entertaining.
Yeah. You just plink that hard to get that model. That
he was defense 0, Doug.
Oh,
he was
God.
defense 0.
Oh, God. You could just do whatever you wanted to him then.
I did.
Ooh.
I'm like, oh, I flipped a 1. He's like, yeah, you got it. I was like, okay, well, that's sweet.
Ooh.
That's what we call bad news bearers.
Yeah, and then he's taking the damage in those pit traps. But so doing stuff like that where it's like, hey, maybe you take, because Ma loves her pit traps, but you take her into Carve a Path, you're like, oh, yeah, I'm going to put these down. So then people hate those pit traps, so they're going to kick the marker towards
I can
those
see
pit
that.
traps.
That's a great point.
And then you're at least kind of dictating where they need to go with their carve markers.
Yeah, because you can be like, sure, you're going to remove this, but I know where you're pushing it, and I'm going to have maybe something to counter up. Maybe you have one of your Autumn Knights there, which is like, now I'm going to smack you.
Yep.
Yeah, so I can definitely see that. That's a great point.
Yeah, and it you know what? It's not always the ideal play there, but it's kind of at least helping you dictate where they're going to go, and kind of it lets you plan out a little bit.
Yep.
And with flank, because flank that's on the diagonal, there's a wide range of areas they could go, and it's not terribly difficult to get that path marker into the opponent's zone.
Yeah, and I've seen so this is when I played against Chris actually, but he basically ended up swinging both of his carts to the same flank. Mm-hmm. So he pushed one to the right, and then he brought the other one from the left to the right, and basically set up like a wall with his crew. That way he could score his and then prevent basically people from interacting with his. So I thought that was kind of an interesting tactic to kind of wall off the crew and send both the carts the same way. It took it took more AP than I think I would be comfortable using, but if you had faster models, I could see it working-ish.
Faster models are things that'll allow you to, multiply your AP.
Yeah, you push it, leap, push it.
Yep, push it, leap, push it. Or, push it, walk up to it, have someone else who can say, hey, you go do a thing. Okay.
Now, round 5, the crescendo of the tournament.
The finale, as it were.
We have cursed objects, again, into standard. So you went back to that standard kind of like, let's just see who has, who has it.
Let's end this how we began.
And then we have breakthrough with assassinate, load them up, set the trap, and then secret meetup. Man, there's a lot going on with this one. This one to me would be very matchup dependent. Mm-hmm. This one, I don't think I have something in my mind right away that I would gravitate to. I would kind of pick, honestly, this one, I would pick almost like an Ophelia or Perdita type master, a Dashel type master, where it's like, I know how to run this well. They do it very well. They kill things very well. Let's do it. And then I would kind of pick my schemes depending on how my opponent made their list.
I could see it also picking based on the table. So let's say secret meetup.
Yes, great point.
Because secret meetup, you need to have that piece of terrain that's going to be... Because that model needs to kind of gravitate towards that terrain.
Yep.
And so you're going to get
or
there
you,
with them nearby.
You have to have a model that can move that model. Like,
right.
Bringing somebody like Zip or Ophelia who can place you 3 inches, or having, like you were saying, your group boy there or whatever that can...
With it, yeah.
Oh, the Walled Geist, yeah, that can just throw models, around. Lures would also be another good option. So maybe you bring something like, a Trixie Belle or a Geisha, to lure people into the terrain. So definitely some options there for Secret Meetup if you think a lot of the action is going to happen in an area.
Yep.
Which, I mean, it's cursed objects and it's standard. I think standard standard and wedge, obviously, you're probably more likely to score Secret Meetup, especially if you have decent just displacement with models. So
Yep. But also, I mean, cursed objects. So obviously, wedge is the most aggressive deployment, followed by flank. This is sort of that, it's sitting back a little bit there. And because we'd already done, cursed objects on corner. So that's,
Yep.
the least aggressive one there. And now we're kind of at the middle level of aggression. You're going to, you might be able to soften up a model on cursed
Yep.
objects, but on turn one. But it's rare that you're going to be able to really, full on murder something accidentally too early.
yeah,
Which
right?
that's one of those things I run into is oh shit, I wanted to kill that one
Whoops,
later.
I killed it.
But, whoops, I killed it. Or I mean, there's honestly those times where it's like, with Assassinate, if you can kill the master, but you haven't scored the first point, do you go for the kill just as like I'm gonna guarantee that 1 point? Or do you, stop knowing they might heal up?
I mean, are you asking me specifically?
Yeah, I was asking you specifically. How do you usually go about that? Because I like to hear people's theory
I
on
think
that.
Listeners know that Assassinate, I rarely take it because if I see the kill, I'm going to take it.
Yep.
So I am the person that will take the 1 point at the end of the game because I think it's more valuable when the master is, about to die. I think it's more valuable to kill the master.
I completely agree on that. And honestly, I feel like instead of, aiming for 8 points in a game is very, very tough to do.
It is.
I mean, that you have to get to 5 rounds, which now, a lot of tournaments, that is entirely dependent on your opponent. Like if I can get to 5 rounds in a game, but I'm playing against someone who's a little bit slower, I may not be able to guarantee, so that's suddenly, okay, I'm not getting, that last strategy point.
Well, and I also think that there's more engagement in this GG.
Yes.
And like people are saying, there's a lot of models that are getting removed earlier. It's a little more aggressive, a little more, kill motivated, just because it's forcing engagement at certain points on the board. And I think because of that, I think it's reducing the amount of APs you have throughout the game.
Right.
And I've noticed that a lot of games are kind of stuck somewhere into that like 3-4 or 3-5 or 5-4 kind of range.
Yep, that's where
I think that's pretty common.
I got a lot of 5-4 games. A lot of 5-4 games.
Yep.
And I mean,
Yeah.
ultimately, if you
I think a lot of ties too.
fair number to I get a lot of ties. That's just me. But so if you comparing this GG to the previous GG, I felt like last GG was not killy enough. That
I agree.
So there was no strategy where you could score by killing.
I mean, you could, really killing was only used to neutralize.
It was used to deny, but you could never score. You could never kill to score.
I agree.
And
I agree.
I like there being at least one strategy where killing actively gets you points as opposed to the denies points. So that was my one major critique of Gaining Grounds 2. No killing strategy.
Yeah, we talked about that a lot on here.
And the other one was earlier on I had gone and actually checked out. It's like, okay, so this is the number of killy strategy schemes. And it was a very small number of killy schemes. So last Gaining Grounds was not very killy at all. This one feels so much more killy because of how non-killy the last one was.
That's a great point. I heard people talking about that, and not a lot of people, but some people are a little negative about how killy it is.
Well, you know what? Those people are wrong. And, you know what?
Come play in Texas.
Well, no. So okay, here we will. I will. So breakthrough is not killy. So okay, Vendetta. That's one killy scheme. Assassinate, that's 2 killing schemes. Sabotage, nope. Hidden Martyrs, would you consider Hidden Martyrs? That's actually an anti-killing scheme.
It is.
All right, catch and release, not a killing scheme. Spread them out, not a killing scheme. Load them up, not a killing scheme. Unless, corpse markers is the thing you're going with there. Public demonstration, not a killing scheme. Set the trap, I believe the second part of that one is, having a master. But the master still needs to be, the master henchman needs to be alive for it. So
Yeah.
you can't actually, you need to soften them up, but it's not killy. In your face. Okay, in your face is very killy for the first part, but the second part is the get your dude in their zone. So yeah. So that is 3 killy schemes. That is it.
Yeah.
So you've got 1 killy strategy and 3 killy schemes. Most of the stuff you're doing,
so
you're not killing
it's really,
points.
it's really, I think that people are killing models, for those, but also just denying AP.
Yep.
Like, I think because you're in the same area and you're moving models, you're trying to get them out of areas, you're trying to prevent them from doing things. And sometimes the best way to do that is just to murder things.
Oh yeah, no, they can't, they can't interact if they're dead. They can't, be on that marker if they're dead. And so there's a lot more engagement. Models you're killing models so they don't stick around, because with covert operations they have to be there at the end of the turn. With what was it? I think it's so covert would guard the stash. You need to have the models physically there to be contesting that stash. There's none of that hey, I interact with this and then I go wandering off and there's no way you're ever going to deal with that, so haha, fuck you, it's scoring me points for all the game. So it is a more engaged gaining grounds, and killing will score you more points as gaining grounds than it didn't, but it's going to, there's certain things where it is the denying it there. But a lot of players,
you still need to score. Like, killing's okay, but you need to score.
Right, but a lot of players had the things where, hey, they've got their interacting shenanigans, where it's like, hey, I'm ways that they can, take an interact action without using AP. Like, hey, I got a bonus action that's going to let me, tag that marker there or kick this thing. And so being very interact efficient was very, advantageous in Gaining Grounds 2. Gaining Grounds 3, the model has to survive standing. They can't go, all right, I'm going to come up here, tag that marker, then run the fuck away. They have to, hey, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to, stand my ground by this marker. And so there's that.
So last thing I want to talk about, Doug, is 55, I think it's 55, right, to get into the tournament?
55, yes, gets you into the tournament.
So anytime that it's a 2-day tournament, I'm definitely interested to hear what that 55 gets you. So I know it's going to get us 5 rounds of Malifaux. That also makes you eligible, I think, to play in the other events, right? If you want to do like the
it's
henchman hardcore
55 for
stuff.
one thing. This is the first year I'm running this, and so a lot of times you'll have separate tickets for things. That's a lot to take, for year
Separate
one of
out.
this, it's a lot to, kind of sort out. And this will then let me kind of see, all right, what is the, how does it shake out? I'll be able to parse it out, see what went well, what didn't went well, and move forward. Now,
So looking at that, though, but what are you looking to do for prize support for that $55? So, I mean, is everybody getting something at the door? How are you, looting out whatever prize support you have? Like, what's that going to look like for this event?
all right, so everyone is getting a swag bag. I am in the process of assembling what all goes into it. If you've been to any of my events before, because I do 3D design and do 3D printing stuff. For like all the LVOs that I run, I make a little custom. That's like the LVO ones here. So stuff like that. Little custom markers that you can only get through it there. I've done 3D printed widgets before.
Nice.
I'm hoping to actually have laser cut widgets because
fancy.
Westbrook has a laser cutter, and so we're kind of working together to do that. And I was playing around with some of the, actually earlier today, the resin that I thought was going to be a cool, unique color for the markers this time did not come out the color I wanted it to, and so I don't like it. So I'm not going to be using that, so I've got to change up what color I'm using for the markers, because I've done red, I've done green for LVO. I was hoping to do blue. Well, the blue is, it's this one. That's not very blue. It's actually more clear.
Yeah.
But I'm getting a different resin in that's blue.
Yeah, and stuff like that's always cool when you make like custom stuff.
Exactly.
Something else that was cool. I went to a Middle Earth tournament, and I'll show it right here. But that skull pile that the pig's sitting on, they actually gave us like about maybe 6 of those just in part of the swag bag. So you can just like put them on bases. You can use them as like objective markers. So anytime you get cool stuff like that, it's fun to get at these random events.
Yep. So we're getting that. I've got to get the coupon from. So Match by Mars is a sponsor. Every single mat at the tournament is a Match by Mars mat.
Nice.
So I've got I have 20 Match by Mars mats now, all 3rd edition lines.
Sweet.
So that is a lot of mats. It's very heavy to carry around, but it would be heavier if it were neoprene. So that's why I'm glad that I have the vinyl ones. Also, vinyl is beer proof. We've learned this at LVO. Someone always spills on one of the tables.
You're not wrong.
Yep.
You're not wrong. You get your like Stein and you're sitting there drinking and yep.
Someone's going to spill at some point during the tournament. Someone's going to spill some beer on one of the mats.
Because you get a little drunky and all of a sudden, whoop.
Yep, and it just soaks into a neoprene mat, and then you never get that smell out. It smells like nasty stale beer forever.
Yep, you're not wrong. What about prize support towards we're getting towards the end of this?
Yep.
I mean, is it all just going to the victors? How are you divvying that
out?
So
the way I end up doing it is that the victors obviously get some awesome prize support. There will be some medals for everyone. I've got to finish the designs I like to do actually some really cool, I call them functional trophies. That I started doing I started doing this at LVO.
I was going to say, you could do, this is my 3rd place trophy I got in Atlanta. So I don't know if you do stuff like that, but this is totally functional, guys.
Well,
totally functional.
We will have the biggest hat. Because I've been because if you look at the little logo I have that I got made up for
the gremlin
with the big old Texas belt buckle and a big hat there, and so I was like, the tagline I've been using to promote this is "Who has the biggest hat?" So the winner will get the biggest hat.
Nice.
But as far as functional trophies go, so something I started doing at LVO was I've got these deck boxes that I make, but I put a medal in the top of it, where it's it said first place LVO, second place etc. So I've got those, and the way I look at it is that's putting your credentials on the table. It's like, hey, boom, I've set this deck box down on there, and it says first place Lone Star Fodown. You're like, oh man, it's laying up on the table and kind of bragging a little bit, but it's a cool way to have that out there where it's not just sitting on your shelf gathering dust. That goes into your Malifaux bag. You're taking that from place to place to place and go, oh, hey, first place at the Lone Star Fodown. Where was that? Why didn't I hear about that? And so it promotes it there as well.
I haven't won any big events, but I do carry around my Rage Quit Wire swag so people can ask me, what's RQW, and then I explain I have a semi-mediocre podcast with dozens of listeners.
Exactly. You know what? Yeah, you've got almost as many listeners as you have people who come on as guests.
That's true.
But
that's how I expand my audience. I bring on guests.
There you go. That's how you got me listening there. But so I've got that. I've got prize support coming in from Weird. That can
Paramount.
help you out. And that's why we're doing this there, is because they're an awesome store and I've got a good relationship with them.
Awesome, man. But I think with that being said, we're going to roll up on out of here. Burning the midnight oil for everybody. But make sure that y'all are flipping cards, flipping tables, and I hope to see y'all in Houston. H-Town.
See you there.
Welcome back, Rage Nation. Got myself Pete here.
That's not really exciting.
You got Senior Dixon.
I don't think that's appropriate.
And we got Monsieur Leopard.
Explorers deserved it. No.
Absolutely.
I was disgusted. I cannot believe they've done this.
Why is wacky? Why is that good? It's just nonsense.
I disagree on that. That's not possible.
We're getting the band back together. We're on a mission. Yeah.
Now we've got a whole new list of things to complain about.